town of the good, the bad, and the weird. You either live by the gun, or you die by the sword.
Every listener down in Listenerville maybe like Christmas movies a lot, but the podcasters who are speaking into Listenerville did not. The good, the bad, and the weird hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Who knows the good, bad, and the weird's reason? It could be the jolly good cheer. It could be the lack of holiday beer. But I think it's most likely the reason of all is that the holiday season now starts in August, like Halloween and Thanksgiving doesn't exist. Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris. And yeah, that wraps it up pretty nicely.
Pretty much. I mean, we still like covering Christmas movies. It's just...
I don't want to have to listen to Christmas carols in Walmart anytime before December.
No. It's just getting worse and worse every year. Like, I was in... Because we don't have too many art stores. I was in Hobby Lobby, in July, and they had their Christmas shit up already.
You know, Merry fucking Christmas, I guess.
But we're doing How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
And to really just nail the nail into my Christmas dead heart, really. This is my least favorite How the Grinch Stole Christmas of all time. The 2000 live action starring none other than Jim Carrey.
You love Jim Carrey.
I don't, though. I don't, but I will say that out of the Jim... And I know that Jim Carrey has a lot of movies. I have seen a lot of Jim Carrey's movies. I have seen both his comedy and his less humorous roles, and I think it is just that I don't like the man's face.
I completely understand that.
In the way that some babies don't like hats and beards, I don't like Jim Carrey's face.
I don't like Ron Perlman's face.
Yes.
But... I recognize he is a fantastic actor.
And unfortunately, this movie makes you recognize the fact that even if Jim Carrey has a scary, scary face, he is in fact a very good actor.
Were you afraid of him as a kid?
I don't think I watched him as a child. I was very into animated films, and he's not in a whole lot of animated stuff.
At that point.
Yeah. So I had seen some of his things, but like, we didn't watch Jim Carrey growing up. We weren't like a live action humor sort of family. So, like, I knew who he was. I had seen him. I hadn't really watched him until, like, high school and then in college. And even by that point in life, it was too late. I did not care for him.
Him and Tim Allen. And they're specifically in Christmas movies that we've needed to cover.
Yeah, they are. And they're Tim Allen is a special flavor, like we talked about, where I don't like him because I don't like his humor. I normally like slapstick and over-the-topness in my humor. I just do not find Jim Carrey's face lookable. I cannot stare at it for too long. He scares me. However, this version of the Grinch is by far the most creative version of the Grinch.
Yes.
This story has been reworked a billion ways by this point. Originally set out as the book written by the one and only Dr. Seuss, this was the first live-action adaptation, and it still remains the only live-action adaptation of this movie.
Yeah, I think Michael Myers' Cat in the Hat kind of killed...
Yeah, it definitely killed it, but fun fact, that's the only other live-action Dr. Seuss movie, and yeah, no, the Cat in the Hat 100% killed the Dr. Seuss live action.
And I've never seen that one all the way through. I've seen pieces of it growing up.
It's garbage. But, and there's some very strong reasons for that, part of which being, you know, the Seuss franchise and also the very, like, special place that those stories hold in our hearts. Those books are still widely read by kids.
Yes.
This was a very interesting take, and it is as close, I think, to adult humor as Seuss will ever come.
Well, outside of his nudie books.
Yes, outside of those.
Yeah. So, for those unfamiliar, How the Grinch Stole Christmas is, like we said, the 2000 adaptation of the Dr. Seuss book of the same name, about a Christmas fantasy with people on a snowflake who celebrate the hell out of Christmas, but fear a solitary person who hates the holiday.
Yes. Essentially, that is correct.
Belschnickel.
Yeah. He's also the only green fuzzy person living on the snowflake. A question that has bothered people for generations, and this movie attempts to answer.
What is the Grinch?
They address the fact in this movie. They do not really give us an answer, though.
No, not at all. But like we said, again, based on the book by Dr. Seuss, screenplay by Jeffrey Price, and Peter S. Seaman, directed by Ron Howard.
Yes.
It stars Jim Carrey, Taylor Momsen, and Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah.
Our sources for this episode, because there's not a lot of them.
That's true.
They include the special features from the DVD, including cast and director commentary, as well as How the Grinch Stole Hollywood by Andy Leibschutz.
Yes.
Leibschutz.
And there are... Sure, I don't know, maybe. There are lots of, like, clues sprinkled around if you care to dig through to find bits about this movie. They're just not all placed in one nice spot, which is frustrating because this movie has been re-released a billion fucking times. We have the super special edition of the DVD. I think it comes with by far the most stuff of any release of it, which is good because it originally was released in theaters, which is why it's, according to that, the first actual movie-length adaptation of a Seuss. The one before this was a TV special. All of the Seuss stuff before was a TV special. And then, so it came out on movies, in the movie theater. And then it came out on TV. For years, it ran on ABC every Christmas, without fail. And then got bundled with the original that ran for years without fail, really cementing it into the American culture. And then it came out on VHS and DVD. However, the version that came out on VHS and DVD was the same release as the one that came out in the movie theaters. But the version that came out on TV was an extended cut edition that had all of the deleted scenes. And those deleted scenes did not show up on DVD until this edition, which is the newest edition.
Interesting. So, for me, I didn't realize, or I didn't know. I thought this movie was a little bit forgotten, but...
It is unfortunately not.
Well... And that's from my understanding because when this movie came out, I was overseas in Germany.
Yes.
And it wasn't that big of a thing over there. And so I didn't really see it when I came back to the whole 3 years I lived in the lower 48 after this.
Understandable. I also have a extended family who is very into Christmas movies.
Yes.
Very, very into Christmas movies, which is great for them. I watch the same 3 Christmas movies every year and call it a day. But for them, they really like doing the whole, like, advent calendar style ABC movie marathon of Christmas movies. And a lot of those movies, a lot like a lot of other families, those choices were very influenced by what was on TV during our, like, childhood. ABC ran, like, a 24 days or 25 days of Christmas, depending on when you were tuning in. Same thing with a lot of the other, like, free and public stations. Like, they ran Christmas films, and you just kind of got to pick which ones. But they were the same, like, 20-ish films the whole time. This was one of them. Once it was released, it got put on the circuit along with the original, and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, and, I mean, my family tradition's just a little bit different. I mean, we would go to movie theaters around Christmas. So whatever movie we decided to see on Christmas Day or around Christmas Day, that's our holiday movie. So, like, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, unfortunately, the Hunger Games series.
Yeah, and those were all the newer ones, whereas these ones were all movies that came out ages ago and are just constantly being redone. Yeah. And now we have access to them on streaming, so instead of watching one movie a day for the full of December, we watch almost all of them continuously. And, you know, that is part of the fun. So I see why this movie makes it into a lot of people's rewatching and why it has a cult following, despite the fact that this movie really isn't that good.
It's got its moments, but I mean, I can see where it's got its cult following. I mean, it's charming enough. I mean, and like we said, notably, this is the first live action adaptation of Dr. Seuss, so that we have this is the base point. It's like the Super Mario Bros. Movies of Dr. Seuss live actions, even though there's only 2, but
it is. And this also has the most influence from original Seuss people. Seuss himself never wanted live action versions of his stuff. In fact, he adamantly refused to sell his works. Yes, and that was because of a bad experience during the making of the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, which that's what turned him off. He did the screenplay for it, and just he didn't like the experience at all. So, and also he had the mindset that the 1966 animated version could not be topped. And I unfortunately agree with him. But His widow did not feel the same. She decided that it was time for Seuss to move on into the future, which, understandable.
Mm-hmm.
And also, she did so in a very controlling way. And honestly, I think it's why this version of Seuss is, even though I don't like the newer Seuss stuff, I think this is the strongest one. And a lot of that has to do with her influence into the movie.
Yeah.
She was very particular on who was allowed to work on this movie and what was allowed in this movie.
Yes, and she wasn't interested in doing it at all until computer effects reached a certain point of realism. Which
is good, but it also helps that this movie is a ton of practical effects.
Yes. And, I mean, even then, with her vetting system, what became this movie was actually producer Brian Grazer's second pitch, because the first one didn't go well, and then once he partnered with Ron Howard and they repitched, all the other proposals were tossed out the door. This was the only one that they were going to do.
Yes, and Jim Carrey from the get-go was on the docket of approved actors. She had a very specific idea of who could be the Grinch, and the other options were other people like Eddie Murphy. Jack Nicholson was like a maybe, but Jim Carrey was an easy check yes box for who she thought the Grinch could be. Same thing with the director. She, from the very get-go, before anyone had even offered deals, made it known that whoever was going to direct this film needed to be their previous film needed to make a certain amount of money to prove that they were going to like put the correct effort into the movie for her.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you look at Ron Howard's track record before How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I mean, we've got Apollo 13, Backdraft, Willow, so we've got a guy who's worked with practical effects quite a bit. Ed TV, which is a little lesser known, Cocoon.
But he'd also hit that mark for making a movie that was well-known, family-friendly, and made a lot of money, which were part of her checklist to make sure this movie passed. She also shot down, like, a lot of the jokes. She had a little less reign on Jim Carrey himself, which explains why he is so different than the rest of this film.
Yeah.
But, like, a lot of the jokes that were written in for other characters to do, she nixed.
I can see that. I mean, you don't want it to get too out of line, even though Seuss himself was a bit out of line.
Seuss himself was. She, however, really wanted to maintain the image that Seuss had created, not necessarily the man himself. And so part of that was she didn't want this movie to be very raunchy. She wanted very, like, tasteful jokes, in her opinion. She didn't want this to be exclusive to anyone, which is a little odd because this is a very solely Christmas film, but, you know, you do you.
I mean, the whole story is based around Christmas, so you can't really avoid that.
No, but, you know, to this woman, that was her idea of inclusive. She nixed a lot of jokes that would have addressed the fact that this was a Christmas-centered town, because she didn't want to isolate anyone, but in the same way, that isolates people, so, like, whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she had less control over Jim Carrey, which is why Jim Carrey's character feels so adult compared to everybody else in this film.
Yeah. So, before we get into it, Chris, what are we drinking today?
Well, so we didn't want eggnog, because both of us cannot really drink eggnog, especially today after lasagna night last night.
Yes.
So we have opted for beer, which feels very Grinch, and also, none of it matches, and if I could, I'd chew on the glass.
Yeah, you've got an Oktoberfest, which is fitting because the first appearance of the Grinch was an October special.
It was.
And I've got some sour ale with mixed berries.
Yes.
Cheers.
It does not taste like gingerbread men, thank God.
So sour.
Oh, no. Like the Grinch, dark and tart.
And crisp.
I don't know if this man's crisp.
He's crispy.
The suit is crispy. We gotta talk about this suit. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This movie has a very specific look, and I think part of that is also why it has stuck around in cult classic, like, literature, because all of the faces were done using prosthetics.
Yes.
And every single person on screen is in a bunch of prosthetics.
Oh, yeah.
It creates a very realistic Who-esque version of everyone, but it also is just a little Uncanny Valley-esque. And I think that's why it works.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a little bit. The first thing I appreciate about this movie is its DVD menu.
Oh, same!
It's so old school and, like, so pixelated.
Did you go through and play the games that came with...
No.
I did.
No.
I did, because I played this on my PlayStation 2, which also acts as my DVD player now. And let me tell you, They don't make DVDs like this anymore.
No.
Are there lots of fun facts about things that the movie used to make itself, or how they did things, or interviews? No, there's not. Is there a bunch of games for you to play on things like helping the Grinch get ready for Christmas, destroying Christmas, decorating for Christmas, coloring for Christmas? Oh, you betcha. This is hours worth of entertainment for a 5 to 8 year old.
Or you in an evening.
Oh, or me, not even in the evening. This was at lunchtime today.
Oh, jeez. But How the Grinch Stole Christmas opens on a credit scroll into a snowflake, which was inspired from Horton Hears a Who with the dust speck. It's fitting, it makes sense, but I do question some things of like, does snowflake melt or like...
They never address it, just
No.
like where the Grinch came from.
No, exactly. It makes no sense, and it's gonna get even... There's a
It
lot
gets
of
worse.
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
It gets so much worse.
But we are quickly introduced to Whoville. I mean, the building's no code or railings. It's fine, whatever.
Okay, so this live action version of the buildings and this initial look at Whoville
Mm-hmm.
was a turning point for Universal. Universal didn't have a very direct hand in this film's making. However, they were the ones who owned and distributed it. And because of that, their name got stuck on the box for this. And they loved that. This, for them, solidified their purchasing of the Dr. Seuss universe because they had spent a long time trying to get a hold of this. They finally had it, and they had a very distinct look. This is why, when you go to Universal Studios, there is an entire Dr. Seuss land, and it's partially based off of the book's look. A huge portion of its architecture, though, is directly based off of the stylistic choices of this movie.
Interesting. I didn't even know Universal had a Dr. Seuss area.
It has a whole section where there is, and it's not even like a little section, it is a large section of them. And at least the one in Florida. I haven't been to all of them. I'm aware there's like the Japan one has probably other stuff. But at least in the US, the Universal here, like the Dr. Seuss land is hard to miss. And it's partially used as like the kiddie section, but it's also not. The like there's rides, there's food, the Grinch himself, and it's not even just like the Grinch from the books. It is this Grinch. This version of the Grinch right now is meeting and greeting in Jim Carrey's impersonation of the Grinch. And he is a fan favorite. People line up to see and be ridiculed by this man every year.
Huh. Fascinating.
It sounds like a dream job, really.
Yeah, I guess. Or
You get to stand around and tell babies how ugly they are? That sounds great. And people
Yeah,
applaud you
true.
for it. You get to be a Christmas asshole. And people love it.
I mean...
I'm already a Christmas asshole, but I'm not green, so nobody likes it.
But back to the architecture, they did have that was one of the difficult things with this movie was flushing out the 2D to 3D, where they did originally explore keeping the Dr. Seuss drawing style and staying rigid to the drawings, but they said it felt amateurish.
Yeah.
And I can see that exactly. There's a part of one of Akira Kurosawa's films, Dream, where a dude goes into Van Gogh's paintings.
Oh, yeah.
And it's rough. I like the concept, but it's rough, and they don't do it as well as, like, What Dreams May Come.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
there's a bit to it.
I also think this helps with the later, real close-ups we're going to get of the prosthetics.
Yes. But production designer Michael Korenblith saw Whoville as a bit of a medieval village and broke down the morphology into the core of like the medieval live below, work above, at least for the town center.
Sure.
But he also noticed that Dr. Seuss's drawings pulled a lot from Moroccan and Islamic forms. But then he also wanted to give the rest of the buildings within Whoville a different feel. Like the town hall takes on Greek inspiration, like a lot of our other architecture did, the Roman and Greek revival.
Oh, yes.
The Farfingal's department store features Art Nouveau forms, which blends quite well with the curvy Doctor Who style.
It all looks very seamless, and it helps that it is crammed in, like, the most comical way together. It's like there is not enough room for them to have built, but there is. We see an entire vast emptiness surrounding Whoville, but, like, everything is practically on top of each other. And that really helps, like, just mush all of this together.
Well, it also makes it feel more like I'd say downtown city than a village. Or, like, a downtown village, too, because they also base the town square where most of our squishiness takes place.
Yes.
on European village centers.
You can feel it. And the other thing that I really liked is the way that all of the characters interact with the entirety of the town is the way people interact with a large box store during Black Friday.
Yes.
And that works so well for the chaos that is this film.
And it also works well with keeping the chaos and the quote-unquote zaniness of this movie, because no right angles were used. That was the rule, is you couldn't have anything plumb.
And also the camera itself is often like knocked over a little bit, or cattywampus.
What does cattywampus mean?
It means to be across the way from, but at a diagonal.
Diagonally.
Kind of, but like askewed.
Interesting.
It also helps that the camera is also uncomfortably close to half these people most of this film.
They don't have much of an option in these locations.
They don't, but it adds to the level of chaos and like almost claustrophobia where it comes to like shopping in a mass.
Yes.
It is something that like, for the most part, has kind of gone away in recent years, but it is very much like a staple to the Christmas idea and holiday. And for the time period with this movie, 2000s, it really adds and like fits nicely.
Yeah, no, and on top of that, they specifically chose color palettes based from the book, so that way it all tied together, which
it looks good.
Dr. Seuss's widow approved of the world.
Good. I'm glad, because it's everywhere now.
Yeah. And I do like that you brought up that how this movie starts off quirky from the get-go.
Yeah.
Very consumer society. A commentary the whole film attempts to carry, as many Christmas movies do. I mean, look at Jingle All the Way.
Oh gosh, yeah. The thing that I love about this movie, though, unlike a lot of other Christmas movies that either poke fun at or acknowledge the insane consumerism that has become Christmas, where a lot of those acknowledge it or just kind of brush it aside or attempt to solve it by, like, you know, doing good works or being kind to other men, donating, spending time with the orphans, that sort of thing. This movie, on the other hand, leans into the consumerism.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we witness, like, families being destroyed by the amount of Christmas happening in this film, and instead of addressing the fact that, like, Cindy Lou Who's father would be better without Christmas, instead we lean in and we're like, look, the Grinch is better with Christmas.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, I do like that we're introduced to the world before we're even introduced to the Grinch.
I do too, because it also helps really establish that he is the weird one here.
In a weird way that the rest, even though the world is weird, he's the one who doesn't fit within that weirdness.
Exactly.
But while we're on the Who's, they were difficult to get right. They tried really hard to, the first attempts they did, I'm glad they didn't go full Who with it.
I agree.
But the reason they went with the partial in between is they still wanted them to look like normal people, but added little things that normal people can't do, such as like a tiny person in a tuba.
Yes, and I think this works the best. I'm very partial to the original drawn and TV special Who's. They have a special place in my heart, but they are cartoons, and they are cartoons in a way that would not translate to live action well. This works. Everyone looks like they're from the same universe. It is now such, like, ingrained in our head that this look, immediately people are like, even outside of Christmas, it is the Who's.
All except for the children, and that is because they came up with the idea of children growing into their noses because of child labor laws and not being able to afford to have the kids in makeup for 3 hours a day.
True, with the exception of 2 children. There are 2 children in this film who, and I bring this up because it ties in later with my hatred of Jim Carrey.
Okay.
But there are 2 children in this film who did unfortunately have to put on the full makeup and prosthetics, one of whom being the actress who portrayed the main little girl, Cindy Lou Who, and the other one being Tiny Grinch. And we will get to why later, but both of them do look great, and, like, thankfully, at least for Cindy's part, it is a lot, but it is a lot of stuff that she was able to take on and off fairly easily in between shots, like the teeth.
And still look like a little girl and not like a Who.
Exactly, and for a lot of the shots where she's farther away, she doesn't have the teeth in. A lot of it's just the hair, which helps. Same thing with the ears. A lot of the children got away without having to wear them, which is nice, because those things are uncomfortable.
Minimal time of makeup.
Exactly, unlike Jim Carrey.
Yes, we'll get to him. But now we cut to, after we're introduced to Whoville, some teens are out testing their courage, and they find this door that all of a sudden is just like, okay, you guys don't know about this door being here?
Okay, I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. However, I think that because there was so much influence from Madame Seuss herself, she had a very small town church Christian view of Seuss land, and I think that is why, instead of certain parts of this movie making sense, having the entirety of the Grinch swept under the rug like a bad church secret does make sense.
Well, that's the thing, is he doesn't feel like a secret either, because, I mean, clearly they know who he is. It feels more so like a dumb high school test of courage.
It does.
Like, supposedly the Grinch lives in this mountain.
I do like this scene for its use of Max the dog, because I don't like this version of Max as much as I like the cartoon one. This Max is kind of just not used very well. He's just kind of occasionally placed in where convenient.
He's the comedic role. He's the straight man for a lot of the Grinch's stuff.
Yes, which honestly isn't needed because there's so much going on constantly. Yeah. But this little, like, set of prop that then, pops out and spooks the teens, I think helps, like, move us from Whoville's insanity to the Grinch's insanity.
Well, it also, for me, because of what later on, of how easily multiple people are able to get up to his house.
Oh, yeah, no, they just, like, walk in.
It makes me think of, like, Nacho Libre.
Yeah,
when he's just, like, outside of town in the wilderness, but he's, like, 20 feet from the closest house.
Yeah. No, this is exactly it, and I love it.
And we do finally meet the Grinch initially. I mean,
I love how do you realize that we meet the Grinch initially, and they wanted him to look like the cartoon Grinch. But however, because of the implications later made, this is naked Grinch.
Yeah.
No clothes, full naked Grinch.
I mean,
it works in the cartoon because it's hard to tell, like, what is socially acceptable, and also, like, who is what. Like, it's also kind of hard to tell what a who is, because they're so different and diverse. This film, it is very clear that the Grinch is not a who, and there are who's. Who's are clothed. The Grinch is full on naked.
Well, this brings
up
up
butt cheeks hanging out.
This brings up the question.
Yeah.
The Chewbacca question.
Yes.
Human or dog?
Yeah, okay, so this one is a little easier because this one talks and puts on a bathrobe later.
Yeah.
Whereas Chewbacca only has a belt. He talks, but only, like, 4 people can understand him.
Well, I'm talking about dog dick or person dick.
Well, it's the Grinch. There might not be one at all. We don't know.
I don't know.
He's got butt cheeks, though. They modeled those.
Yeah, or his guts cover it. Actually, that's probably a good theory. His guts covers it the whole time.
He does have a lot of gut. But that was something that she wanted. Like, that was part of the, like, requirements for the suit. She did give the sign-off on this suit, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the butt cheeks included. This suit was approved.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jim Carrey was the only person that Ron Howard even considered for this role.
Yeah.
And Carrey even said he saw it as a dream role he had never thought of. That's
true, but he said that significantly after he had finished the film.
Yes.
He hated being in this film during the film.
Because he was in makeup at least 3 hours every day just putting it on.
Yes, it was excruciatingly long to put on. He described it as being buried alive on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
The costume was made out of dyed green yak fur that was glued onto a, like, bodysuit.
Yep.
And then he had the prosthetics that went over all of it, and then the makeup on top of all of it.
And all of that had to be able to move to fit his face. If you've worked with prosthetics before, you know those can be pretty stiff, even though they're soft materials.
And Jim Carrey's face is very soft and very movable. He has a very wide range of facial expressions.
And he had to do this for 42 days of shooting.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, but his makeup is really good, as we do see later on, because it's done by Rick Baker, who's famous for his work on An American Werewolf in London, but has also worked on a few movies that we have talked about, including Wild Wild West and Men in Black.
Absolute delight. His work always is some of my favorite work as far as prosthetics and makeup in movies goes.
Mm-hmm.
Where American Werewolf is one of my favorite movies, especially werewolf-wise, like top-tier werewolf. My main complaint about this makeup is it forced Jim Carrey to be more theatrical with his arms and legs because he physically could not move his mouth as much as he wanted. And thus, the Grinch comes off as a little flaily. a little wiggly.
Ragdolly.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of people like it, and I understand that. I just don't.
Yeah, and I mean...
He comes off as childish to me because of that.
Yeah, it's a fun way to... And I think, and at his core, he kind of is still a kid. Like,
in this movie.
He's an angst... Even in the original cartoon, he is basically an angsty teenager who never grew up because the world's out to get him. To be fair, in this world, the world is out to get him.
In this one, I will give you that in this one. In the original one, he read much more as the grouchy old man who, like, yells at kids to get off his yard.
Mm-hmm. But I do think it's a fun introduction. It shows how he's kind of quirky, he's dirty, smelly.
I do like the props here. All of it has a nice, like, visual sound and feel. Like, you can very much tell what texture everything is. He is gross. The onion eating is gross. It works. This all looks very good.
Yeah. I mean, the set of the hideout as well is so different from the rest of Whoville that is clearly formed. But all of his is really jagged, and it was inspired by Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't come... I don't think it comes across the way Howard wanted it to.
I don't either. It comes across more as, like, evil villain lair.
Yeah, he wanted it to reflect the Grinch's hurt and not be angry. It's like...
To me, it just reads someone who was forced to live in a cave and doesn't know how to do any building other than, like, gadgets.
No, okay. So, I'll bring it up later.
Yes.
There's questions I have about this cave.
Okay.
And I'll bring them up with the specific scene that comes up later.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But now he's already going off to town. Like, we've seen him like 2 seconds and like
he does move on to town very quickly. Yeah.
And like the mask he's wearing in town, it's like the only one who's wearing that Christmas. I don't even know if it's supposed to be a Christmas mask or if it's supposed to be the Grinch mask.
I have no idea. I can't tell you. It is weird. It doesn't make any sense. But no one in the movie seems to question it, so I guess it's fine.
Yeah, well, he's also the only one who looks, like, homeless in the open compared to everyone else.
That's true.
Because here's the thing. Maybe this is, like, their annual occurrence is like, oh, he's gonna come down, he's gonna screw around a little bit. Oh, it's the Grinch, the homeless bum. Let's ignore him while he's in town.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know if there's, like, some, like, high school kid who every year dresses up like the Grinch and is like, woo, I'm the Grinch.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea. There are no answers.
No, not at all. There's just so many questions in this movie, and I will be going through that quite a bit.
There are so many questions.
But now we are back to Cindy Lou Who and her dad, where... And his boys are coming in, halting all the festivals because they said the Grinch, kind of like Lord Moldy Butt in Billy and Mandy.
Yeah, that's true. They do kind of like...
Record stop.
Yeah, this movie treats the Grinch a little differently each time. Sometimes it is a siren going through town warning you that the Grinch is coming, and sometimes it's just like, wow, weird homeless bum. Definitely the Grinch.
Yeah. Well, and we can also establish that the Who is a religious society.
Yes, well, that does make sense.
Oligarchy, I think, is the term.
Christmas-garchy, I think.
It has an oligarchy because the mayor...
Yes.
The mayor is the one who, like, pulls out, in the great book of Who, you shall not pronounce the Grinch's name.
Yes, I do appreciate the mayor's curly hair. It is hilarious. In general, he is a good caricature, especially because, like, a silly mayor figure does fit with the rest of the Christmas films, like, especially a lot of the ones that replayed on TV right next to this one. The amount of silly mayors in Christmas films is quite high.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's great. I mean, he's the real dickhead in the whole movie.
He really is. It's fantastic.
Actually, that's kind of the interesting thing. This movie doesn't really have, like, I guess in the traditional sense, like, your protagonist and antagonist.
No, and, like, part of that is because the original one, both the book and the original show, the Grinch hated Christmas and no one knows why, and that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas this movie tries, to an extent, to give a backstory to the Grinch, and yet they just create more questions than answers because they can't go against what was already created.
No.
They can't go against the lore that was already there.
Well, they don't even explain stuff because, like, the only reason they give that it's taboo to talk about the Grinch is because he hates Christmas. That's the only reason. It's not
but for them, that's a good enough reason, I guess.
Yeah. But it's also, we've seen enough of the camera work that I do want to mention. I do like the odd camera angles and, like, the rotating adds a little bit to the goofiness of it all.
Normally, I'm not a big fan of, like, constant goofy camera work. However, because of the chaos of this film And because this feels almost like a universal roller coaster ride the whole way through, I do think it works. I do think that even though it kind of is seasickening a little bit to watch, it eventually comes together and adds to the film as opposed to being distracting.
Yeah. Well, and also him sorting the mail brings up more questions because
Yes, same.
The Grinch has a mailbox.
He also has a phone and an answering service.
Yes. No, it doesn't, like, really... The Grinch has technically a registered street address for the Who's.
Yes, he does.
Someone, if he ever got a letter, has to walk up that mountain to deliver him the message.
I do appreciate, to an extent, some of the, like, childlike logic that the props people and Jim Carrey went to for the role. Because there are things that, like, as a child you would have just assumed everyone had and not, like, thought that, like, oh, the homeless man in a cave wouldn't have a mailbox.
Yeah.
So they just gave him a mailbox.
But, I mean, it makes no sense because, like, for him to have that mailbox, they had to establish it after he leaves town. When he's a child, then now he's an adult and has a mailbox. Like, someone had to intentionally be like, this box is for him.
Yes. It might have been him. He might have done that. We don't know.
Could be his adoptive mother's.
Maybe. I hope so. They seem nice.
Yeah. But also, so the Grinch does pop up in this scene a little later on and starts chucking mail.
Yes.
Some of the things he says. The Who's have blackmail.
Yes, they have a lot of things.
And jury duty.
Yes, they do.
And a pink slip.
Yep. Among some other questionable things that she let slide because Jim Carrey was part of it and there was a lot of, like, back and forth. There are certain things that I know that if she had been, like, very, very into this, she would have vetoed some of that being part of it.
Yeah. Because
the later joke about his conception being a huge portion of it.
Oh, God.
But I honestly think that, like, so much was happening, some of this slipped by her. I really do. I don't think she caught it.
Well, and I think maybe there's an understanding that, you have to have some adult humor. But, like, this isn't even, like, adult humor. It's just, like, okay, do they set their differences aside for Christmas? Or why do they have blackmail or jury duty if this is supposed to be this happy, carefree society? Or is it only Christmas they're happy and carefree for?
It is not explained, and it is not explained in less of a satisfying way than, like, Nightmare Before Christmas. Because at least in that version of the movie, everything revolves so heavily around one holiday to the point where you assume that their entire existence is based for the holiday. Whereas the Who's, because they have jury duty, I now assume that they are just a crazed race of people who are just obsessed with Christmas.
They just go crazy one time of year because what this implies is that there's a criminal system in Who prisons. Which
also, I have questions on why the Grinch is not in the Who prisons. Because
he was, well...
But they have so many laws against, like, being bad for Christmas. He has definitely broken Who laws.
Yeah. But
has he broken so many they can't contain him?
Yeah,
Do they not want him? Have they exiled him?
Maybe he's too unruly for their jail, so they have to let him free.
I would also not be surprised if their jails were, like, a square taped on the ground and they, like, tell you to stand there for 5 minutes.
But, I mean, that is actually kind of the Dr. Seuss story I want to see, too, outside of this holiday system with the Who court system. I mean, can you imagine the scene? Your Who honor, this Who is on trial for homicide. He was found with blood on his chandelier.
That'd be hilarious. However, like, there is more to the Dr. Seuss world than what we see. He has a lot of other books where he does explore different, not necessarily like the justice system, but he does explore other aspects of life and, like, what that means and how to navigate it. And there is, to an extent, like, police officers in the other books and stuff. So, like, it was thought about, just not maybe to the extent that you are taking it.
Show me the Who's in Pooh prison.
I don't know if there's...
During Christmas.
I don't think there are Who's in Who Christmas prison, but there is definitely a police officer in the, like, the Stars one, because I think... God, it's been a long time since I've read these books, man. But there's definitely police officers in one of them. Maybe it was Hop on Pop? I can't remember.
I think it's in One Fish, Two Fish.
Maybe. There might be more than one police officer. There might be, like, widespread crime in Who world. I don't know.
Who knows? Who?
I guess, okay. I think the Dr. Seuss movie you want is the one with the Onceler. Because that one has like an actual like logic-based system to
I
it.
do like the one slur. I know what I want them to do is I want them to make a Whoville CSI because the
That'd be
theme
hilarious.
song by the Who's "Who Are You" still works with it.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. I'd watch that.
Love that. But the Grinch startles Cindy Lou Who, and she tumbles into the package sorting machine, which, once again, no OSHA here, I'm guessing, either.
No, but there is jury duty.
It's a nice, funny jab at the mail damaging packages purposefully.
Yeah, and it also lets us get a little glimpse into Cindy Lou Who's uncertainty about Christmas.
Yeah, she's already questioning it from the get-go, but it's also a scene that is used to soften up the Grinch because he saves her, and then...
And a lot of this writing, when looked at realistically, does not work in the same way that the Who's judicial system doesn't work. However, it is key and cornerstone to know that the entire reason that this version of the script was created was because originally, when Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman were writing this, they watched the original and read the book, and they were fascinated by the original 5 lines of Cindy Lou Who and her appearance in the book, because she's barely in the original one.
Yeah.
And they were fascinated by the only other Who in Whoville that had a name, and felt that she needed to be a cornerstone piece of the writing. And that charmed Madame Seuss quite a lot.
Well, she is iconic.
She is 100% iconic, but it does crack me up that they literally found the only other named Who in Whoville, other than the Grinch, and we're like, that one. The two of them are gonna become buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you have to.
This is essentially Dr. Seuss fanfiction just turned into...
Because otherwise, the original Dr. Seuss movie is, if you take the book directly, it's like, what, It's
a TV special. That's why this is the first, like, full-length one. They had to add a lot.
40 minutes of the original or something.
I think that was including commercials, even. Yeah.
No, exactly. But Grinch has to wrong his good deeds by wrapping her up.
I love this part. It's so cute.
Max has to be Max is basically Jiminy Cricket in this movie.
Yes, but even less useful.
Yeah.
At least in the first one, you felt bad for Max. You don't really feel bad for Max in this version of Max. Like, the 2 other appearances of Max, he is being rescued by a child and adopted, and then you feel bad for him until the end. This version of Max, you're just like, well, he's there.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think I'm introducing Cindy, like, they have to make her kind of like the Wednesday Addams of the Who family, or like, no, I wouldn't say Wednesday Addams. I would say the daughter or the niece from the Munsters. Yes,
she's definitely the one who questions reality the most, but she's also the only real tie the audience has for people like you and I, who are like, the fuck is happening here?
Exactly. Because immediately, we're back to their house in Greater Whoville, which implies that there's...
more Who's?
More Who's, and also I would say probably a...
Rural Who?
Not even that, lower income Who's.
I mean, maybe.
I mean, who lives above the house, apartment, or the stores?
Other Who's.
Yeah, apartments and stuff. These Who's have a house.
There's rural Who's out here somewhere. There's
Maybe.
Country Who's.
The Grinch is the country something.
That would fit, yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting because they also start adding some stuff that doesn't really play out, like making the holiday lighting competition kind of a thing.
Yes, it's a little much, but I love it.
It's quirky, and it's a way to try and give some sex appeal to it, because you know someone has jerked it to her.
100%.
Oh yeah.
I do also...
in the idea of the makeup into face shit too.
Yes. I do like this scene though for the practical effects as well, because the scene of her shooting the Christmas lights out of the, I can't remember what it's called, the Christmas Gun 5000.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called. So that isn't CGI, it's practical effects. It was the Christmas lights in reverse. So instead of being put up, they were tearing them down, which looks really good because she looks insane.
Yeah. They all look insane.
But because they all look insane, and because instead of using CGI, which honestly would have aged very poorly, a lot of this movie already is starting to age.
Yeah, there's a couple CGI Who's in the crowd that make me think of some of the movement on the Titanic.
A little bit, yeah. But because of these sorts of scenes, this is what helped this movie continue to be something that, people actively want to watch.
No, yeah.
It looks good.
Exactly.
Crazy, but good.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's a brief scene, and then we cut back to the Grinch just doing childish pranks as he goes back, or decides to head home for the day. He's had enough mischief.
I'm not gonna lie. A good solid maybe 15 minutes of this movie is just Jim Carrey as the Grinch doing stand-up with props.
Mm-hmm.
And it is funny to an extent. However, it's a lot. There's a lot of focus on just the Grinch living his best bachelor life at home.
Yeah.
And I don't really need it.
No, exactly. I mean, well, it's good to help build him more as a character rather than just, oh, I hate Christmas.
I agree. I'm not saying scrap all of it. I'm just saying that, like, almost every time we turn around and build a foundation for understanding this ridiculous Christmas world, instead of being given an answer to ridiculous Christmas world, I am given the Grinch going through his daily planner, or him getting dressed for sitting in his couch, or what he is eating for the day.
Yeah, and I mean, we do get a little bit more of that comedy when we get back to the lair. I get it. It's whimsical and, like, having to do the whole, like, travel map where it bounces around, and it adds to the Whoville garbage system that makes no sense.
Yes, I agree.
But, I mean, we're, like, 30 minutes.
Yes.
Well, yeah, about 30 minutes into this movie.
Yeah.
But it also makes the Grinch's house feel like it's a 30-minute to, like, an hour trek from town. Like, he's not really that far out of town.
It kind of feels like how if you live in a big city and you say you're going to take 30 minutes to get somewhere, but it's 30 minutes with traffic, so in reality you've gone like 3 miles.
Yeah. Actually, I have an idea. Because we get back and he's all over the trash.
Yeah, he's very into trash.
And I can't help but think of Dan DeVito and
a little bit, yeah,
as the trash man.
It does give trash man vibes.
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Redo this. Jim Carrey as the Grinch.
Dan
DeVito as the dog.
That would be funny.
That would be awesome.
It would at least give Max a purpose for existing. Because right now, I'm not gonna lie, I have forgotten Max exists, and I literally just saw the dog.
Yeah, I kind of forgot his name too already.
The only reason I know it is because I was obsessed with Max from the Halloween Christmas special, because in that version, Max gets adopted at the end.
Oh,
by the cute little boy. Jezariah? Jemadiah? I don't know, they all had rhymey names.
I have no clue. I've watched that once when we had
I watch it every year. It's eyebrows time, bitches!
I know what part you're talking about. But even then, like, the little bit back to the lair is short-lived because we're back onto Where Are You Christmas? Like, kind of the poster child song for this movie.
Yeah, okay, so I do want to talk about the music just very briefly.
Okay.
So the music for this, none of this was overly original. There were a few songs that were, like, tailored to the movie, but for the most part, the music for this was celebrity editions of existing Christmas music. And with the exception of Where Are You Christmas, none of the Christmas songs stand out. Like, to the point where you can almost not tell that there is music playing, which is very weird for a Christmas movie.
Yeah. Well, I think it's already so overdone with Christmas that I think adding even more to it would have just been overstimulating.
I agree. However, instead of picking...
Overbearing, that's the right word.
I would almost go with overstimulating, because this movie is a lot.
Yeah.
But instead of going with, like, nice, generic-sounding Christmas-esque music for a lot of places, it's celebrity editions of music, like, to the point where they made a whole CD and released it separately, like, 2 years after this movie came out. And, like, not in the fun, like, Shrek the Hall sort of way, where, like, it's a joke version of Christmas movies.
Or the Pokemon Christmas album.
It's not like that where it's like, oh, it's all like tailored and joked to the Grinch. None of them are. They're all just normal ones, but with celebrity singing, or, you know, famous singers having a take at a Christmas song. To the point where, like, none of this, like, I legit forgot that Where Are You Christmas is in this movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's sad, because it's a very good song. It fits the movie very well, but that's the thing. It blends in very badly.
It's such a one-off in comparison to the rest of the movie, because we only get really one other major song in this, and that's obviously You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, or whatever the hell it's called.
It is You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. We will get to that song because I have strong feelings about it.
Yes.
But that is the other very odd thing is there was original music already available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Dahu Dores is already a song.
All right, that's used at the end.
I think it's Sandwich, but yeah, like there's already Dr. Seuss music that they could have pulled from, and instead it's celebrity versions, and it's not even Grinch versions of the celebrity songs.
Just a whole album of Jim Carrey, like,
Yes, I would have bought that. As a teenager, that would have been fucking hilarious. I owned multiple versions of Shrek, like, CDs because I thought it was funny. I have the Shrek Christmas songs, and I still can sing them. They're terrible, but a teenage version of myself thought that was fucking hilarious, man.
As a kid, we did really like the 101 Dalmatians soundtrack.
Exactly.
Digga dog, digga dog.
Yes! Like, really, like, ham it up. Like, we've already gone full ham sandwich here. Why did we stop with the music?
What? Go full ham sandwich? What does that mean?
It's going full ham, but, sandwiched.
Is that a Midwestern saying, or is that just a Chris?
No idea.
I'm going to take that as a Chris, because I've heard going ham, not going ham sandwich.
Don't know.
It's
a saying now. And unfortunately, the music in this does not go either full ham or full ham sandwich.
But what does go full ham is the furniture.
It sure does. I love the furniture in this movie.
Because it does feel all off, which...
It all feels fake and like a prop to like Minnie's house at Disney World.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And they had a difficult time with it, but what they ended up pulling from is all the objects, or most of the objects in this movie, are inspired by 1950s style appliances.
Yes, they are.
After it was suggested to Ron Howard by none other than George Lucas.
And I love it. The texture and environment for this movie fits so well, and it really like you can see just the absolute unrealisticness of all of the props. And I think that is something that when they try to do the Cat in the Hat, they try to play into this style.
Yeah.
But whereas this one, Jim Carrey acts as if everything around him is a prop, whereas in Cat in the Hat, it didn't work because everything needed to be realistic and part of like the actual functioning world. Whereas in this version, the Grinch exists on top of the world. Everything he does is just free-floating without the world needing to interact with him. Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, the rest of the world, like, there's enough normal objects in it.
Yes.
That those don't feel out of place either.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with making the Who's human enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it also helps that the Who's interact with the props very carefully and intentionally as if they were trying to act with props for a real movie, whereas Jim Carrey's version of the Grinch is a chaos tornado, and he doesn't care if he uses any of these appliances correctly. No, because he doesn't have to. Because he lives in a garbage cave. He's a child who's never been taught how to use stuff appropriately. Like, we see that it starts with the shaving. That is true. The shaving is hilarious. Yeah, and also the making of the ornament, where he tears up already nice stuff that's supposed to could have been used as a good gift, but he's like, no, I'm going to remake it. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, he kind of makes me think of, and I know this is going to be a very nerdy reference, he kind of makes me think of, like, the Frederick Kiesler of Whoville, which... Yeah, a little bit. For those who don't know, Frederick Kiesler is the only surrealist architect, even though Antoni Gaudi's work, you can kind of see the influence on this as well. It is definitely influenced Gaudi's, yeah. But for straight up unlivable surrealism. Frederick Kiesler, and he was described by one of his associates as a man who had spent 2 years trying to figure out how to put two pieces of wood together when a nail would suffice. That is an actually correct statement, yeah. I've seen his stuff. It's amazing. It's bonkers. I spent a part of a semester studying him. He's one of my favorites. It's fantastic, but yes, everything... It is so surreal in the same way that the Grinch is so surreal. Yeah, a bit. Like, he exists in his own rules where the rest of the neighborhood doesn't matter. Yeah, true. But we are back to the Grinch's lair finally, which... The garbage lair? The garbage lair. I mean, it's a fantastic bachelor pad. I mean... It is, okay, and I think part of the reason why it works is because there is a never... And they don't address it. This scene, this set flips drastically between being the active garbage dump of the Who's and a random cave in the mountains.
Yeah.
It is both simultaneously, and because of that, because there is no rules in Cave Grinch, it works. It is both, he has apartments in here, and he also has pits of nothing. Just absolutely random shit hanging around.
I mean, stuff that he probably tinkered with and threw to the side. But, I mean, there's some things, I know they had to play with the original, with, like, the machine that had the heart.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of him breaking the third wall in this scene. It's just kind of whatever.
No, I agree. The third wall did not hate me.
Yeah. I enjoy the echoing bit.
That is funny.
It's a good way to show that he's truly lonely of, like, I wonder if, I mean, it's Dr. Seuss, so maybe the echo is its own entity talking back to him.
Maybe.
Or maybe it's all in his head about him having an actual conversation. But the question I have.
Yes.
Does he leech electricity, or does he pay for it?
Okay, so we know that the Who's have an abundance of stuff because they are an hyper-consumerism society.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that this works in the Grinch's favor because they're constantly throwing stuff away. I would not be surprised if they go through so much electricity that they don't notice that he is leeching off them.
I can see that.
Think of how much lights are on one lady's house.
True. But also, this implies that there's 2 power plants.
Yes.
They have to have...
And manufacturing companies and manufacturing plants.
Who electricians?
Mines. Plastic plants. Like...
Who fracking? Because you know they're not getting it from the sun.
No, and like, what is truly powering this electricity? Is it nuclear? Is it, like, what? Is it wind? Is it renewable?
I would love...
Is it icicle powered? Like, what?
I would love a Who Cold War.
That would be hilarious. That is the other thing to remember, is this entire movie takes place on an icicle, which does imply that it is always winter here.
Yeah.
It cannot thaw, because that would literally melt their world.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We have no clue. We're just asking dumb questions that... Like,
it physically cannot be answered.
But it adds to, like, the world not making any sense at all of, like... Yeah, you brought it to life, quote unquote, but, like, by bringing it to the real world, you've brought real world problems to a cartoon.
And this is why the cartoon version, from a, like, just solely from a storytelling standpoint, works better, because it doesn't even address that these are questions.
It's just straight and right to the point.
Exactly, whereas this one, the fact that Jim Carrey was allowed to do stand-up prop comedy with all of this stuff means that I now have questions about where he got all this stuff.
We know where he got most of it, but hey, here's the thing.
Yes.
Here is what I'll say it is benefiting the movie.
Okay.
It's showing he's a DIY man, whether it's good DIY or not.
That's true.
Because you know he didn't hire...
He's a tinkerer.
Yeah, you know he didn't hire an electrician to come up there and wire his house.
No, he definitely electrocuted himself. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. But we return to Whoville to learn the origin of the Grinch as investigated by Cindy Lou Who.
I do not like this part of the movie, Sam I Am.
I like it enough. For me, I think it's a decent enough way of showing while telling, which is fine for flashbacks in this case, because it's not saying like, oh, you remember when. It's like, no, you were telling a story, and instead of just having a scene of like these old biddies telling Cindy Lou Who like the entire story of just them back and forth, we're getting some visuals alongside it.
I do agree that, like, if we have to put backstory to the Grinch, this is a decent way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Baby Grinch reminds me an awful lot of early TV dinosaur puppets.
Yeah.
It's a little foam-esque.
Not the mama.
Yeah.
A bit, and yeah.
And we also now have to face the facts and the realization that the Grinch's conception and the fact that there are swinger parties in Whoville.
Yeah, the key party humor that I didn't catch as a kid.
Yeah, but once you're an adult, it is so hard to miss.
Also, same-sex marriage, theoretically. They never address it, but it's heavily implied that
True.
Grinch is raised by 2 mamas.
You know what? Those little biddies did their best. They really were the only ones who were kind to him.
Yeah, and still we're kind to him.
Yeah,
Still hoping that
they still
one day
love
he'd
him.
return. It's our little Grinchy.
They did constantly say that he was, like, a really great kid as they, like, actively show him eating paper and glue.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I mean, it's also anti-Christmas runs in his veins, but we also get the other side with the mayor and, like, the revisionist history of the Grinch.
Yeah, that's true. And, like, this isn't a necessarily bad backstory. My question, though, is, do we need it? Other than for runtime, do we need to know why because we don't know why the Grinch hates Christmas. Because they don't address that.
No.
They just address the fact that he was bullied as a child.
The reason this scene exists is to establish how the Grinch got up to the mountain, even though there's Whoville.
Yeah.
And it also is a way to bring in a kind of antagonist in the mayor, and also bring Sexy Lady back for who has the hots for the Grinch.
That's true.
Bring in a love interest, basically.
It's not completely useless, but it is missing just a few lines to make it useful.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, actually, sorry, it doesn't explain where the Grinch comes from.
No.
But it does explain a couple things. Basically, the Grinch has become a Bigfoot-like boogeyman in less than a lifetime.
I love that for him.
Yeah.
I strive to do that.
Yeah. But also, basically what this sums up is it explains why the Grinch hates Christmas. He hates Christmas because kids can be cruel. And also...
But it doesn't, though, because as an infant, he said bye-bye Santa and ate the plate.
But that's just also a kid being a dickhead.
No, kids don't eat ceramics.
They break ceramics.
They do. They do not eat it and then say bye-bye Santa. And this is coming from a child who flushed baby Jesus, the nativity set, down the toilet.
I had a cousin who told me they will never see you again. Kids say some weird stuff.
They do say some weird stuff. There is no child on this planet who, from the moment they can speak, is this obsessed with the death of Santa Claus.
You don't know.
Without being prompted. There is no one in his life that this would have been like a fun toy with. No one would have put this in his head.
Maybe we're missing out on the old biddies teaching him to hate Christmas.
That would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's a secret society of Who's who don't like Christmas.
Well, and on top of that, so assuming that the Book of Who was written before the mayor was even mayor, on top of that, they named him an adjective in this world.
They did.
They a Grinch, which
they did.
To them specifically, the Grinch is a name of someone who hates Christmas.
Yes.
So they're just naming their kid like what the kid hates.
This is some Disney level bullshit. This is the equivalent of Scar's original name meaning garbage before he named him he got named Scar.
What was Scar's name first?
Garbage.
Was it garbage?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like straight up garbage. It's whatever. I think it's Swahili.
Oh.
I think. Don't quote me on that. But, like, it originally meant something along the lines of garbage. And then when he got his Scar, his brother changed his name to Scar for him.
Wow, remember that traumatizing bit? That's what we're going to name you instead of garbage.
Our parents have 2 children, 2 boys. One we've named King, and the other we named Garbage. Suck it.
But also, I mean, we skipped over, like, how the Grinch hates Christmas. Basically, kids were dickheads to him. He shaved and he had a mustache since he was 8. My brother had a mustache since he was 8.
Yes. The other thing that, like, the movie actively tries to not address the fact that the Grinch is clearly not a Who.
Yeah.
He's not. He's not a Who. Not a single other Who in this planet is green and furry.
No, well, they said a strange wind blew that day, and, like...
Yeah, but, like, that's it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, having this movie be, like, about the differences and, like, trying to find family amongst, you know, people who are not blood related. Instead, it's oddly changed into the fact that he hates Christmas.
Yeah, but it also doesn't explain where the other Who's come from.
What do you mean? The other Who's come from the sky.
So did the Grinch.
Yes, but he's not a Grinch. He's a Grinch.
So where do the other Who's come from, then?
The sky, like, the sky seeds. I don't know.
What about the Grinch? He might have come from a bad sky seed.
They should explain that then.
Yeah, they don't, for either of them. But also, the Grinch has been on his own. This is what's also messed about the movie.
Yes.
He's been on his own since he was 8. And this
that would mess you up,
This
man.
is where I have questions about the cave.
I do too.
Because they fade into him as an adult.
Yes.
And the door's there where there wasn't a door when he was 8 years old.
True.
So, not only does this, maybe the Grinch found the cave, most of the cave.
Yes.
But he had to dig into the mountain
Yeah.
And he built that door himself.
I would like to think that his two aunts, who still clearly love him very much, like, had the house built for him out of town. But, like, they don't tell you that.
No.
Like, at all. Like, to the point where, like, it would have been 4 seconds for them to be like, he wanted to live alone, so we sponsored him. Like, no, they don't even do that.
Yeah.
They're just like, and he lived like a hermit in the cave, like a raccoon.
Since he was 8.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's makes no sense.
It doesn't.
Because immediately we go back to it's time for the jubilation, which...
I love it.
We get some odd stuff of, like, the green punch on cups on their heads. I don't remember if that's part of the book. I don't think
It's not.
Yeah.
The book really is condensed down to they had weird toys and instruments, they ate some weird food, the Grinch stole all of that shit, and then gave it back.
Yeah. Which, we get the whole election system for the cheer miser, which voting feels rather North Korea-like, as it goes with... You know, the mayor traditionally has been this guy, but you can vote for who you want.
There's no one else running.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, no. It is a little, it's a little dystopian in certain aspects of this movie.
Yeah, no, exactly. And even then, when, like, Cindy Lou Who comes out and is like, I nominate the Grinch, it's like, well, the rule book says the Grinch cannot be it because they hate Christmas because we named them after hating Christmas.
But also, like, why are you making this up a rule? Like, clearly no one's gonna vote for the Grinch. Why wouldn't you just let this election go?
Yeah, he gets outsmarted by an elementary school kid.
That is embarrassing.
Yeah, no, exactly. But, I mean, and they also go, like, they explain that the cheer miser's for those who need it most, but the mayor's the default one?
I don't know. I don't understand either.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, how hard does it have to be the mayor of Whoville?
It can't be that hard.
No.
It just can't. Look at them.
No.
Look at this society. It's chaos. It cannot be that hard to be the mayor.
No, not at all. And, I mean, it's a short-lived scene because we're now back to the Grinch's lair where the Grinch is sleeping but singing along to the jubilations, which... some lungs on them to get the music.
I mean, that's cute though, because it does like tie back into the original one where like at this one the like cave is like appears to be like a mile away from town.
Yeah.
In the original one he was like up the Alps. So I do appreciate that it ties together. That's cute.
Yeah. But also Cindy can easily get to him. A grade schooler can climb the mountain to his door.
This man does not live outside of town. He
Yeah.
lives like a block away.
No, exactly. Oh, and we also forgot to bring up that he tries shoving stuff in his ears. He has a giant monkey smacking him in the head.
Yes, it's very cartoony, and it's whatever.
Yeah, all that had to fit down a garbage chute that we've seen clearly isn't big enough to hold that monkey, but...
we don't worry about that.
Yeah. Also, now that I think about it, where did he get the heart viewer?
I'd like to think he made it.
Is there a doctor in Whoville that...
There has to be a doctor in Whoville.
Yeah.
Look at them. Someone's breaking something.
Maybe.
They're gonna fall off the roof.
No.
Decorating.
Never. But, I don't know. There's also this part where they really tried too hard to try and sell...
I agree.
...him being scary to Cindy Lou, and it just doesn't work.
All it does is scare me, a person who's already scared of Jim Carrey. It's scary to me. It is not scary to Cindy Lou Who or any other rational person.
Yeah. Well, I do like... The only bit that I think makes this interesting is that it shows how petty and vengeful the Grinch is, because he's only interested in it because, one, it's an award.
Yes.
He gets some recognition, but also it pisses off the mayor.
And I will also say that there are some fantastic one-liners in this that are very quotable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I must check my schedule. I've already rescheduled dinner with myself 3 times.
Yeah.
Can't miss that.
Cure world hunger. Don't tell anyone. Also, that implies that Whoville has world hunger.
Yes. No, I love the implications of this.
Yeah. And, I mean, this whole scene is supposed to be, the fun little scene of, the physical comedy that Jim Carrey brings to it. That doesn't...
For me, not my favorite. But
No.
again, that's 100% because I'm not a fan of Jim Carrey. This, for a lot of people, is their favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. The schedule is the only part that I really like.
I can understand. But again, this specific scene and version of The Grinch is the one people wait in line to go meet and greet at Universal. So, clearly this is very funny and very popular for the majority of people watching.
Yeah. And it's also a way to further the idea that the Grinch needs companionship. Max is poor company, but he's like,
Max is a dog, doesn't really talk.
My cats don't talk, but they're good company.
Hobbs physically can't leave. She would be eaten alive instantly.
Yeah, she's too fat.
Charlie maybe for like a day, but then he'd want back inside.
Yes. But yeah, it's a fine enough scene, but it just doesn't really add too much to me. Because now we're back at Whoville, and he's not showing up, which...
Yeah.
There's also a mention of popcorn shrimp, so...
There's an ocean, then?
Or freshwater shrimp? I don't know.
Either way, that does imply that this world is not as frozen as it once was implied.
Or there's ice fishing.
Shrimp ice fishing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, you throw the net down there and help you catch one or two.
And that it... Yeah.
Can you drop a bait to get shrimp?
I don't know if shrimp live where it's that cold, is the thing.
You got krill, which is in the same
Krill
family.
are not shrimp, though. At no point has a restaurant ever advertised to me krill in butter.
Because they'd spin it.
Then I've eaten at a lot of weird-ass places. Krill has not been on the menu, and I've eaten a lot of crazy shit.
I'd try krill.
I would also try krill, but it's not been an option.
But we do get a little bit of them playing back to the trapdoor that he sent Cindy Lou through. He gets it because Max wants him out of the place. Max doesn't even like being around him, it seems.
No, but that's also kind of the running joke from the original, was that Max was very unhappy there. Whereas at least in the original one, Max being unhappy was spare 10 cents to feed a dog sort of sad. Whereas in this one, Max kind of would like the Grinch to leave so he can live in the cave. Is kind of how it feels.
Well, we do see that because when he comes back, he's partying.
Yes.
But also, when he arrives, it's in the last minute, but it's immediately face first in the tits.
Again, though, they weren't allowed to have very many adult jokes, so the ones that they got away with, they, leaned in with.
Yeah.
She would have vetoed the swinger thing if she had caught it. And instead they were like, aha, we got through!
See, I don't, maybe in the idea of, the one side of Doctor Who, but then you get his other side.
No, Doctor Who himself, I think, would have thought it funny. He's dead by this point.
Oh, yeah.
It's his widow who is owning and operating all of this, and she was a very polite Christian woman.
Sure.
So...
but, I don't know, it's... This part's a bit... I mean, I get why it exists. It's to get him in front of everyone, really cause a rift between him and the mayor again.
I do think, though, that while I can see what they were trying to go for him having all this pent-up anger and aggression against the mayor and the other Who's, and thus that's why he flamethrower spits the tree on fire in his rampage and, ruins Christmas or whatever. It doesn't quite come through. It just kind of feels villainy.
Yeah, and part of it, we see that the old biddies still love him, which seems like torture to him, but he secretly enjoys the sweater.
Yes, 100%.
But the celebration feels like they overdid it just to mess with him.
I think I know why the celebration feels weird.
Okay.
The celebration feels a little bit too close to the Hunchback of Notre Dame's, Fool's Parade.
Yes.
And that one, the ending and lesson match the story. The ending and lesson of this one don't match the Fool Parade.
He kind of has something similar with the Hunchback and Shrek.
A little bit, but both of those solved their problems in much more intelligent ways.
Yeah, I mean, it works for him this time. Sometimes you don't need intelligence to solve your problems.
I suppose.
Just sheer stupidity.
Well, yeah, that's this one.
But also, if they are not doing the, stuffing his face with all this food one after another to mess with him.
Yes.
Why would the mayor want to do this? Is this
idea.
Real festivities, or is this just...
All I can tell you is that I would lose my mind if I was at this festivities. I would just absolutely have a meltdown and be done with life. I would be living in the cave with Max.
Yeah.
This is too much. And I understand that the movie is trying to portray that, this is overwhelming to the Grinch, but it is done in such a way where it is impossible to tell if this is, truly bullying or if this is all just like his interpretation of it.
Well,
and I would have preferred a much more clear and cut like bullying versus like he just can't handle the overness of Christmas.
Well, I think it's more on the side of bullying.
I think that would make more sense with the story for sure.
Well, and why I think that is the whole thing of, well, let's have a Christmas shave.
That is definitely bullying.
Yeah,
I will give you that.
I think it's also trying to a little too hard at that point to tie into like a lot of traditions in the family of your dad shaves for Christmas.
I suppose.
My dad had a mustache for most of my childhood, so he'd shave it for Christmas.
We had the buzz all around. There's no hair, only buzz cut.
Interesting.
Not me.
I was trying to picture you with the buzz cut.
Not me. Everybody else.
Or not buzz cut. I was thinking of a bowl cut. That's what
No, I fortunately dodged the bowl cut somehow.
Yeah, but after they've tortured the Grinch a bit, which I also get annoyed with his, like, where's my check? Someone said there'd be a check. It's like, why do you need money? Like, what are you going to spend the money on?
Yeah, you can't go into town to buy things.
Yeah, I mean...
You're gifted trash constantly.
Yeah.
What are you buying?
No, exactly. You don't pay for electricity.
You don't pay for anything, as far as we can tell.
Exactly.
You get food, too.
But, oh no, there's conflict because the mayor is proposing to the sexy who.
I don't care about this subplot, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no,
it's only there for the giggles of having the sexy who being attracted to Jim Carrey in a fursuit.
It's the muscles.
He's got the biggest belly and the curliest feet
Hey.
and the thickest butt cheeks.
Dad bods are in, I guess.
Oh boy, the Grinch is the daddiest of bods.
And he's naked too, so...
And he is naked, so there is no questioning.
The only thing that would complete his dad bod attire, whitey tighties.
Really ratty ones, because he's expecting new ones for Christmas.
Yeah, and even those ones are ratty to begin with.
Yeah.
They've got a little hole in them, maybe a little
The elastic is on its
the back.
last leg.
Yes.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's... The other thing, too, is, like, the whole outbreak from the Grinch, and I get why it's there, it's to send him into a fury.
The spiral.
But he's complaining about, like, all their consumerism. He's like, do you guys know where this ends up? It ends up in the garbage.
In my cave.
use it.
Yeah, again, this movie, like, knows that it's in consumerism hell, but instead of that being, like, a lesson on Christmas and Christmas love and cheer, it leans into, like, I want in the consumerism circle.
Yeah.
Which is very strange path to take.
Well, and on top of that, like, from what we've seen of where the chute drops out, there's not a lot of room left at the end of their garbage chute.
No, they're gonna have to move it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've moved it before. The amount of, like, stuff they buy every Christmas.
Yeah.
Their houses are so small, they can't keep it all.
Unless this is, like, 3 or 4 generations of who. Well, even then, that's still probably couple hundred years of presents like that.
Yeah. Honestly, even like 10 years of presents like that, we're talking like top tier level hoarding here.
Yeah, and like not even enough that the Grinch could hold on to. Oh,
exactly.
Let's not forget that they have toxic waste that they're dumping into the mountain.
Yeah, where's that coming from?
The power plants.
Maybe, but maybe that uranium toy that you got to play with in like the 40s is popular. They had a toy where you could, like, build your own radioactive shit. It was radioactive and dangerous, but it was advertised for children.
Huh.
It's delightful.
I know the Boy Scout who made a nuclear reactor in his parents' shed.
Yeah, that's really impressive. Good for him.
Yeah.
We won something for that.
There's a reason the nuclear merit badge, or the nuclear science merit badge isn't a thing anymore. I had it.
Good. Yeah, this thing. It was a kit.
And fuck?
Yeah, it was a kit that you got to, like, build your own stuff, and it came with radioactive equipment.
This is some Fallout style, like, game.
It's not recent, let me tell you that.
No.
It's been discontinued for a very long time. But 1950s, sorry.
Well, that fits the style of this movie.
Yes, it does. Like, maybe that's what they're dumping. That's why he's got radioactive material.
Huh.
I don't know.
Weird. But chaos unfolds. There's some stuff like I kind of forgot about the scale of the Who's.
Yeah, no.
And I get it. It fits the book, but everything is just so dumb and
yes.
Like, I don't even get, like, how this has, like, it's not even that bad of chaos besides, like, lighting the tree on fire. It's just,
the tree on fire, though, is funny because the tree goes up so fast, you know it's been dead for ages.
Yeah.
This is not a fresh Christmas tree, and they haven't even hit Christmas yet.
No, exactly. But, I mean, here's one thing I will say. The design in this world, even the hydrants aren't normal shaped.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
I do applaud their attention to detail here.
Yeah, no. And, like, doesn't even cause that much property damage besides the fire and also the dumb car exploding scene and him jumping.
Yeah. It's just constant chaos, and honestly, the outcome is almost negligible.
Yeah, because now it's rubble and ruin, and Whoville bounces back real quick, because of course they've got a spare tree.
Of course I do.
And they've got one dude working this all, or more than one dude. One dude working the countdown.
Yes.
Which, by the way...
Which countdowns every minute.
Yeah, which, by the way, the timeline of this movie...
Yes.
Is
so fast.
3 days and 17 hours from the opening scene.
That is so crazy fast.
Yeah.
Is ridiculously fast. For how much happens.
Yeah. Well, and from here we get visions of holiday celebration. It shows he's truly a who at heart.
Yeah, he wants to be part of their feast with all their foods and their cakes and cookies.
Yeah, ready to take his revenge, but Max is living it up while he's away.
Good for Max.
Christmas is for the dogs is a dumb one.
It is the dumbest line, and I forgot it was in there until
Yeah.
you just reminded me.
Yeah, also, now, because he kicks Max out.
Yes, he does.
Max gets, when he pulls him out of the snow, Max has a beard, a snow beard.
Yes, he does. It's so cute.
And now he's got an idea. The Who's have Santa, too.
Yes, they do.
Who is this Santa? Where does he come from? Is
Who's
it the
Santa?
same land as the other the Who babies? Is
I
that
don't know.
what happens? Does he make babies and also toys?
The real question is this the same Santa who visits the rest of Seuss world? Because it is canonical that the world on the snowflake and the world on the piece of pollen are in the rest of the Who universe. So is this all one Santa, or is there a specific tiny Who's Santa?
I'm going to follow the Santa Claus Tim Allen logic
Yeah.
of he shrinks down where he's needed. And
It's Tim Allen.
Yeah.
Honestly, Tim Allen's Santa Claus is in this universe would make so much sense.
I dig that.
I
I
would
am
be-
all for that.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
That's canon to me now.
Canon for me, I guess, too.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Tim Allen is in fact the Who's Santa.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really see him, so we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And Fat Tim Allen, when he's already been Santa for years.
Santa 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2, kind of.
Yeah.
Until he slims down to get a wife.
Oh, I forgot about the wife thing.
That's kind of a weird thing, too, like, because we didn't really do 2 or 3, but, like...
We'll
Yeah.
get to him when the new one comes out.
Yeah, it's a show, I think. It's
I
on Disney.
am not gonna watch it, and you know why.
I'm not going to watch it either, and I don't care to watch it until someone makes me watch it. But,
That's true. We can only escape for so long.
yeah. But now we have the classic Mean One Grinch song.
It's not the classic, though, because the classic was
It's-
sung delightfully. Classically.
It's a fine one.
It's-
You know what I mean? It's a classic song. It's not...
It's fine. It's fine, and I'm going to stick with the fact it's fine, because the rest of the music in this is so bad.
Yeah.
They could have really done something here. I applaud them for getting Jim Carrey to sing it. I don't think that was the right choice, though.
Oh, was that Jim Carrey singing
Yeah.
it? Oh.
Yeah. I don't think it works.
No, not really. I mean, I get why they do it. They have to have the whole...
But they have a
Montage.
narrator. Have the narrator sing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun way to build up, like, the tech and his testing and, like...
It's...
But it's not placed at the right time either, because, like, it doesn't,
No.
like, fit. It's like, okay, he's a mean one because he set the town on fire, or he's a mean one because he's testing this machinery, which, by the way, made, tested,
Yeah.
and perfected it in
the-
like 4 hours.
really, honestly, this man's a genius. He just is living in a cave.
Yeah. And I know it's a movie, but all the songs in Whoville come from Who's, right?
That's implied.
So, did he write his own song? Or
Yes.
is this a Who song about the Grinch?
Both make sense, and I don't want to think about
Okay.
it.
But now we cut to him spying on Santa, the real Santa, I guess.
I guess.
But And then, like, you bring up the narrator, and the narrator's so inconsistent in this movie that, like, he pops up of, like...
He's there because he was in the original one.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work in this version.
Because he only shows up 3 times, like, beginning, this point, and the end.
He worked at the beginning, and he works at the end. The middle part, you lose me.
Also, more questions about Whoville, or the Who world. He dons a hat. The WSS Whoville, World War II -70.
Yeah, that implies that they have gone through World War.
Yeah. Are we in the Who Cold War? Is that why it's on an ice or snowflake?
No, they live canonically on a snowflake. Just like there's a different set of Whos who live on a piece of pollen.
Yes, but is this like their transitional period? It's like it's physically cold and it's a cold war for them. They're fighting some other Who town or some other Who country.
Unclear. The other thing that's very confusing is in the other Whos that live on small tiny things, I believe they're the only ones on the thing because they have to yell at the elephant to be heard.
True.
So I don't know. This movie does break Seuss logic, and there wasn't a lot of Seuss logic to start with.
No. It's because they brought real world shit to a fantasy world.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah.
But I do like the idea that this is a giant Cold War.
Yeah.
That's a little funny. It's punny, at least.
That's fine. But now we get him stealing all the gifts. I mean...
It's fine. It is lacking the charm of the original. Like, he doesn't feel mischievous.
No, not really. He just feels malicious is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, even the one had like a level of maliciousness, but you didn't have the build-up of...
He felt like a slimy snake, though. This one doesn't feel like a slimy snake. This feels like a toddler throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. And I think it's a bit too self-aware at times, because like also... Okay, here's some other questions I have.
Okay.
Because how did Cindy Lou mix up the Grinch and Santa after seeing his face? Is Santa one of the Grinch's people?
I don't know.
Or is the Grinch one of his children?
Is Cindy Lou Who in need of glasses?
Quite possibly.
That would explain a lot. Because no one gets glasses for Christmas. And Cindy Lou Who desperately needs them.
Did she mix up Santa Claus for the Grinch?
You know, why not?
Yeah.
It's literally the only reason that he is dressed the way he is and she confuses him the way she does is because it's in the first one. And it worked in the first one because none of the Whos looked the same.
And none of the Whos saw, as far as we knew, none of the Whos saw the Grinch before he came down.
Or saw Santa.
Yeah.
And also in the original one, it's implied that like Cindy Lou Who's like 2 or 3. Yeah. Not 8 or 10.
Well, she's got to be competent enough to investigate where the Grinch came from.
Yeah, which, I mean, fine, but again, we've gone too far into realism. We gotta pull it back.
Yeah, no, exactly. But also, like, the whole bit of him making so much noise and everyone thinking, oh, it's just Santa, let's go back to bed.
That's terrifying.
No, it's dumb as shit, too, because, like, it's not like, oh, there arose such a clatter.
No, it's not. It's not in the same, like, it's not in the same spirit of the holidays.
It's him sawing through a floorboard.
It does make you question what other Christmases have looked like in the past, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then also on top of it, like, him having the mayor kiss Max's asshole.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
Didn't need it.
Yeah, no, you violated Max for no reason.
Leave Max out of this.
Yeah.
You've already made him your accomplice.
It's kind of a nightmare stealing scene altogether.
It really is. I don't enjoy it. I very much enjoy the original one. The goofy grin, the slimy snakeness, the unrealistic, like, yoinking of all of the things individually. This guy doesn't do that. He's out here being a dick.
Yeah, this is like one of the only 2 times you feel bad for Max. Maybe this being thrown out in the snow.
Yeah, but it's not in the same way as like, oh, Max would be happier somewhere else. This is just like, wow, you're torturing your dog.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Well, on top of that, like, he built this thing and he has to fly it. He wants to fly it home, but it fails.
Yes.
Crashes in town square again. Yeah. No one wakes up.
It is impressive.
But now it's time to peace out and wrap it all up by sunrise, which poor Max has to pull the whole thing, which I know that's in the original.
Yeah. And also, it's not just in the original, it's also in the original Halloween special. Max has always been the horse for his carts.
Yeah. And might I remind you, all of this because the mayor was a dick as a child and an adult.
Yes, this all could have been avoided.
Yeah. No, it's really dumb.
The backstory doesn't really add up, does it?
No, not at all. Because immediately, like, the mayor is blaming Cindy Lou Who for all this because, oh, you invited the Grinch into town. It's like, obviously the Grinch has been coming down to town. He has his going out clothes.
He's been here. You all know he's been here before. You have Grinch sighting alarms.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this.
Exactly. But also, he only wrote Christmas for like 5 minutes. There's not that emotional impact because...
Yes. No, and part of that is again because of the music.
Yeah.
Because the music was so unique and specialized to the story of the first one that it told you how the Who's felt without being necessarily directly told. And then you were directly told via a consistent and reliable narrator.
Yeah.
This narrator is neither consistent nor reliable, and the music is non-existent for the most part.
No, exactly. But, I mean, it's a good family coming together moment. I mean, it's a good enough moment. The father standing up for his daughter.
Sure.
He's definitely getting his bells jingled by his wife later because, oh, he's so manly standing up to the mayor of all people.
Wow. Yeah, like, it ends, but not in the way that, like, resolves anything.
No, it doesn't, like, even make you feel sorry for them because they're like, it's all about family and the power of friendship.
Which would have been a good ending message if we don't immediately backtrack and reapply the consumerism capitalist society hellhole that the Who's have created.
Oh, yeah.
Like, at least in the original one, like, it truly does not seem to matter that the gifts are returned. They very much, like, it is fully believed, you are fully immersed in the idea that they are just happy to have each other.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, you get the sense that they don't really believe that it's the spirit of Christmas that matters.
Yeah. I do have to say, from the last time the Grinch was in town to this time, they should be much more upset because all the property damage this man caused.
That's true. He also stole literally all of the food. They're going to starve to death.
Yeah. Or go hungry for a day.
That isn't... Yeah, that's true. This is all for Christmas feast, but also maybe they only eat Christmas feast? I don't know.
I have no clue either. But, like, the mayor he pulls out of bed, like, through his window.
That's true. Yeah, no, this isn't just, like, stealing Christmas. This is just, like, wreaking havoc.
Yeah, no, exactly. And they should be much more sad, but we don't get that because we're at the tail end of the movie and we've already been doing this for an hour and a half, and so they have to wrap it up because you can't spend any more time with them grieving over the loss of Christmas.
That's true.
Because,
that is true.
Yeah, because, oh no, the Grinch is like, oh, they'll be so sad and his plot is thwarted.
Yeah.
Which, now because of that, he's like, oh, maybe Christmas isn't about the presents that I just stole.
Again, though, there's not a consistent song to help the audience understand why he now feels bad.
Because he's hearing the fa hu do re.
Yeah.
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 Which, it's really dumb. And I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be like, okay, I've learned my lesson. But it happens so quickly.
There's no explanation with the narrator. Like, the narrator is barely useful here.
Yeah.
He has words. They're not impactful. They're not explaining of the story. It's just kind of happening.
Spread out this a little bit. Have it have a little bit more emotional impact because immediately his heart's back to growing, which I enjoy. I think it's funny, the cheesy heart shape.
I do too.
But I mean, he's still the Grinch at heart because he's like, oh, I feel so much better. And then he's mean to Max immediately.
Yeah, that's strange.
But oh no, the sled's tipping. Cindy Lou Who's up there with him.
Yeah, I do. Okay, I do kind of like the add to the story that he gets the last little bit of strength because he likes Cindy Lou Who as a friend.
Yeah.
That's cute. I don't care anymore.
But
I stopped caring.
Here's the other bullshit. We've seen how strong the Grinch is.
That's true.
He's so much
strong.
else. Max pulled this thing up the mountain.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Grinch is having a hard time with it.
A good point. Max is ripped as fuck, I'm assuming. I don't know.
I don't know. It just doesn't work.
Max is the strongest dog on the planet.
I guess. But it's time to deliver Christmas, which the one use of the word bitchin' in this whole movie.
Useless. I don't care.
Yeah. Also, that sleigh was moving so fast for it to slow down right before the tree. Also, the dad protecting the tree was just a dumb bit. Like,
I don't like it because, again, it's lacking the charm and, like, magic of Christmas that the first one captured so beautifully. And it's trying so hard to just be that.
Yeah.
But it's lacking in literally all of the things that made the first one good.
And the two women trying to slow it down, like, it doesn't really add anything to the movie at all.
No.
Also, a movie where two women talk and it's not about men.
That's true. This does pass the test.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Especially earlier on when they're doing the hanging the lights up.
Oh, that's true. I mean,
it's not a deep conversation.
It's not, but they do have conversation.
An exchange.
Yes.
Yeah, but and on top of that, like, he comes back and he's like, "Cough." There's a cop in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Coughing cup, I've been a bad boy."
I don't care, Grinch. I don't care.
But like, the cop lets him off because like, with all that property damage and shit he did, he's like, "You hurt him. He's sorry." Is that how the Who's get out of, like, they have a court system and all you have to do is like, "I'm sorry I murdered him. I'm so sorry."
Maybe their maximum jail sentence time is like 5-minute timeout. Like the longest you can go is 15.
That's for murder.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, that's what I feel like happened.
Give me the Who Family Annihilator, the Who Chris Benoit story. But yeah, she falls back in love with him.
So cute. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. From the moment he sets the Christmas tree on fire until the end of this movie, I do not give a shit.
Yeah, she dumps the mayor, whatever.
Yay, wow.
But now he's gone from being... the Grinch has had 3 stages in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The potential cryptid that might not exist, might exist on the mountain.
I love it.
The village freak.
Yeah.
And now basically the bad boy that everyone loves.
Yes. The other thing that doesn't really ever get explained is now he likes Christmas. Why?
Because his heart grew 3 sizes and he's now accepted.
That does not explain why he now likes Christmas.
You know what his story is?
What?
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He's the freak, gets kicked out of his town.
Yeah, but he's not useful.
He brought them together. If it wasn't for him, the Who still would have been in their consumerist hell.
They're still in their consumerist hellhole, though. They go right back to it.
But they had the one brief moment of the Christmas is about family. Throw in Vin Diesel.
A real bad power outage could have had the same effect.
No, you'd still have your presents and stuff.
Santa's
going to deliver with or without presents, or without electricity.
I'm just saying that I feel like a very small minor inconvenience could have had the same impact as the Grinch as far as Christmas is concerned.
Well, yeah, you're right, because the whole ordeal feels like a minor inconvenience to them.
It is, and I liked the first one's explanation of it ends with the impact of family and friends, and that's why the Grinch's heart grew, and now he's happy. This one, they immediately go back to Christmas. Their decorations are already back up.
Yep.
Like, the damage and, like, chaos he wrecked is already gone. Presents are already in the background being passed back out. They immediately go back to their old ways. They have not learned at all. This is not about family.
Because it ends in a song and him cutting the roast beast, which I know it's back to the original.
I do like this part the best because at least this ties back to his dream earlier of being part of the feast.
Yeah.
This is as close to truly, like, well-rounded and thought-through plot point as we have gotten this whole movie.
Yeah, it ends the way the book ends. And
yeah, which, I mean, that's for the best.
Yeah. And honestly, I was a little surprised with this because most of the people I know love this movie.
Same. I don't.
I know it was wildly successful financially, but I know critically it was mixed. Not that I really care what they think, but...
Normally I agree. I normally don't care what critics have to say. However, like, even, like, standard, like, normal, like, you and me level critics, it's pretty mixed, like, to the 40s and 50s percentile mark. The only reason this seems to have a cult following is because ABC and Universal pushed this Christmas movie relentlessly, and it became a tradition. And once it's a family Christmas tradition, it's very hard, even if you think it's a bad movie, to replace it. It's why we still listen to the screeching, horrible, migraine-inducing sound of Rudolph's nose every year.
Yes, I don't watch it every year myself.
I have it on VHS tape.
I didn't grow up with it, so I like. But
that's it. But that is exactly why this is people's favorite, or like not even favorite, but just like part of their Christmas cult classic collection, is because it was part of their Christmas childhood.
Yeah,
it was on TV. It was part of what you got to watch.
No, and I get that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some good things about this movie. Like, I will say the practical effects are great. I think it does start off strong.
Yes.
And I think overall visually they captured the vision of Doctor Who. Sorry, not Doctor Who, Dr. Seuss.
I was going to say different crazy person.
Yeah.
No, I agree. practical effects look great. The costumes and makeup look fantastic. I understand that I'm not a Jim Carrey fan, but he does do a good job here. Like, he's very emotes very well. He has very, like, big and personality-wise. And on top of that, like, when I have not actively recently watched this and I think back on it, the one-liners that do stick with me are good and they're funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's just watching all of it together and critically that you realize there's so much better stuff out there.
Yeah.
Especially for Christmas. Christmas has so many movies to pick from. Why this one?
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm I mean, I definitely agree that the original holiday special is better in regards to keeping the story condensed and tight.
Yeah.
I think their attempt to add flourishes to this movie, to expand the world, it just brings more problems than it actually solves.
Yeah.
And, well, I do like that from a movie standpoint of things unexplained. It gives you more to talk about. It just kind of ruins it a little bit more because it's too much of the real world within this fake world. Like, if they had made up, like, some Who Civil War or some other Who conflict.
Sure.
That would have made sense. But, like, they went right into World War II.
Also, this is exclusively a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Like, until Cat in the Hat, which flopped massively and no one took seriously as, like, part of the Who universe, there wasn't more. We had the old TV specials, but to be honest with you, minus the Christmas one, I think I'm the only person of our generation who has watched the other ones consistently. And that's because I was at the local library renting these suckers on VHS tape. Like, it was not part of the American lexicon to watch all of the other ones. You read the books as a kid, and you would gift, like, certain ones are traditional gifts for, like, when you graduate, or have a baby, or reach a certain milestone in your life. Like, Dr. Seuss is that book to gift. However, this movie doesn't fit that theme, it doesn't fit that style. There's no other reason for us to be invested in the extras that have been added here.
Yeah.
I think the main reason people continue to watch it is because it's a comedy, and there's not the amount of true just comedy Christmas movies is kind of lacking. There's not a lot that are just pure comedy.
Especially all the way.
Yeah, like, I think Elf is probably the best contender for this movie, and I don't like Elf either, but, like, I like it better than this one.
You also don't like Will Ferrell
yes,
either, so...
No, I have strong opinions on Will Ferrell. I think... But, like, again, though, if you're going for goofy and silly, at least that one's world is well thought out and, like, well planned, and there's no open-ended questions other than the educational system of the elves at the North Pole. Yeah,
Elf doesn't bring in Santa in World War II.
No, because it was just World War II and he existed.
Yeah.
Like, the world continued as normal. This one, it took a world that did work, and I didn't care about the questions. And it just made the questions blaringly obvious, which is disappointing because the practical effects look great. The costumes look amazing. I'm very impressed with how they managed to, like, humanify the Who's. And it's disappointing that the 2 live actions of Dr. Seuss that we get, a franchise that I like a lot. I like the animated ones. I like the animated Grinch even. Like, the new one.
I haven't seen it.
It's not great. It's not as fun as the original, but it is funny, and it's at least consistent, and it does have a charm to it that this one's lacking. Yeah,
the last Dr. Seuss movie I saw, like, in modern era was, The Lorax.
The Lorax is a solid choice. But again, fine. It takes the confusion of the questions of the real world that you might have and negates them by staying in its own, like, lore bubble. It adds some to it, but the sum that it adds is literally the face of the Onceler, as opposed to the entire World War I of the Who's.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right there. I mean, having a World War II hat implies there was a World War I Who. Also, where did he get that hat? They threw it
away.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. Some Who veteran or some Who veterans' children had to toss that piece of history away.
Yes. Again, this movie, while I can see the potential and why I can totally understand people who find the, like, grumpiness of this particular Grinch humorous, the movie doesn't work.
No.
In any capacity. And that's saying something because I watch the most bonkers Christmas movies every year. I have debated with you the, politics and ethics of Christmas Prince. This movie makes less sense than Christmas Prince.
Yeah. And I do gotta start the
Advent calendar of Hallmark?
No, the 12. The
yeah.
12. I've got them picked out.
Good for you. I'm picking them at random this year.
Yeah.
It's gonna be whatever Amazon Prime hands me off the get-go.
Same with Netflix for me.
Yep.
So, but Chris, at the end of it, on our good, bad, weird scale, how do you rate this movie?
For me, this is just weird. Like, it's not bad enough to be bad. It's not good. It's just weird. It's confusing.
Okay. I think it's good, bad.
Okay.
It doesn't hit the weird for me because it's Dr. Seuss, and by this point, Dr. Seuss is kind of a bit normal.
Sure.
I think it's good in the fact of, like, a lot of the practical effects. I think they did a really great job of bringing the world to life.
I
think for the most part, the story they did well enough. I think where it gets bad is, well, maybe I don't give it good bad. Maybe I give it good weird. Because I don't particularly think the bad portions overshadow this movie. Okay, I'm going to revise. It's good weird because the weirdness for me is, one, watching this as an adult.
Yeah.
Trying to understand or question the implications of all the real world bullshit that they added to this movie.
Yeah, 100%.
That makes it out of touch.
I agree.
So yeah, I'll give this a good weird.
And I can totally understand where you get the good from the costuming and the props and the camera angles. There is good in this movie. It just is so overshadowed by the weird for me that I have a hard time looking at it.
Yeah, I can see that. So, would you recommend this movie, though?
See, that's the thing. No, I don't.
No?
There is now 3 movie versions of The Grinch, and the other 2 are better than this one. I understand that this Grinch is funny. Just go watch the TikToks of people interacting with this Grinch at Universal. That guy, or several people, I'm sure at this point, who have portrayed this version of the Grinch, they are arguably funnier than this Grinch. They do a great job interacting with friends and family when you come up to greet him. The set feels much more lively and not terrifying. Like, there are other Grinches to watch that are better, and there are better comedy Christmas films to watch. If you want a funny Christmas film, go watch Elf. It's better.
Yeah, I agree with Elf. I personally would recommend this movie just because of where it stands historically.
Sure.
As well, it is entertaining. I think it's an enjoyable enough Christmas movie. It's one you can have on for the kids and not have to worry too much about it.
I mean, they do kiss a dog's butthole.
That's funny for a kid. For a young boy.
Alright, yes.
Kissing a dog's asshole is funny.
I will agree it is funny. To an extent. But, yeah, it's one of those ones where, like, if it's on, if ABC's running it, which I know they are, I'm gonna leave it on. Yeah. But I'm not going out of my way to get it. I'm not going to go buy it, even though the DVD is good. Like, the DVD menu is good. Yeah. The games on the DVD are very entertaining. If you have a kid who, like, this is their jam, I would recommend splurging a little bit. Get the nicer DVD. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's fun. So, but now on to the 3 Degrees of Takashi Miike.
Can he do it? Of course you can. There's so many big names in this.
Well, like I've told you many times, the big names are always the hard ones because it's like 2 degrees and it's always like a movie that I've chosen before or a movie that I'm trying to hold off on.
True. Well, but we are almost at the end of the year.
Yeah. Okay, so, and we're almost at the end of season 5, so I've only lost once.
Yeah, next year, get excited for a full month of Takashi Miike. Nicho has done it. He has won the game.
So here's the rules, and we're just playing this out of posterity. 3 degrees to get to Miike. Has to be a movie connection. Can't use the same connection, i.e. movie actor, writer, or director twice. As well, I'll try to make the plot and themes tie as much as I can.
Sure.
So, it is a little bit of a stretch, but hear me out.
Okay.
I went with Bill Irwin, who plays Lulu who's the father.
Yeah.
He was in The Manchurian Candidate with Dean Stockwell, who was in Tucker, The Man in His Dream with Mako, who was in The Bird People in China. I have not seen this one. This one's actually one of the harder Miike films for me to get a hold of in the U.S.
Oh.
Synopsis by The Movie Database. Wada, a salary man, is enlisted to venture off to China to investigate a potential jade mine. After his arrival, Wada encounters a violent yet sentimental Yakuza who takes the liberty of joining his adventures through China. Led on their long and disastrous journey to the mine by Shen, the three men come across something even more magical and enticing. Two likely on people coming together to find magic.
I'll take it.
I'll
take it.
I told you it's a little of a stretch.
It's a little bit of a stretch, but I also applaud you for finding one that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
Good job.
No, exactly. So, yeah, that's my connection to Mike. There's been a couple stretches, but even with those stretches...
Well done. I admit defeat. You have one.
Thank you. But, anyway, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast.
Thanks for listening.
Peace. Thank you for stopping by this here town of the good, the bad, and the weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always, check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.